The text came at 2:13 a.m., a desperate message meant for someone else. Hi. I'm sorry to bother you. My name's Ella. I'm a single mom. My baby hasn't had formula since yesterday. I thought this was the number of the lady who helps from the church. I'll pay you back as soon as I can, please. The man staring at the message was not from the church. He was Alexander Pierce, a billionaire tech investor sitting alone in his London penthouse, glass of untouched whiskey by his side, city lights flickering below like restless fireflies. He had just spent another night convincing himself that wealth meant peace, yet here was this stranger's trembling plea cutting through the quiet, raw, human, and unfiltered. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something in the broken tone made him type back, "You've got the wrong number." Then, after a pause, he added, "But how much do you need?" Ella stared at her cracked phone screen from her dark little apartment in East London, eyes stinging. She had been turned away by 2 shops for her overdue bills and had nowhere left to go. Her 2-year-old son Liam whimpered softly in the corner, clutching an empty bottle. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days, saving everything for him. When the reply came through, short, formal, her heart skipped. "Just £25, she typed, embarrassed beyond words. "It's okay. I'll manage." But Alexander didn't stop there. He sent £500, no words, just a transaction. Ella gasped, staring at the message like it was a mistake. Then came another text, "Get some food for yourself too." She didn't know that, at that very same moment, on the other end of the city, a man who had once lost everything money couldn't buy, his wife, his peace, was staring at her name on the screen, wondering why he suddenly cared. Days passed. Ella didn't text again. She didn't want pity. But one afternoon, she wrote, "Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I don't know who you are, but you saved me." He replied, "You don't need saving. You just needed a chance." That one message became the thread that started to mend 2 broken lives. A week later, Alexander couldn't get her out of his head. The simplicity of her words haunted him, no manipulation, no agenda, just gratitude. He'd spent years surrounded by people who smiled for his money, yet one wrong number text had felt real. So, one rainy morning, he asked his assistant to deliver a care package anonymously, baby supplies, grocery cards, a small note, "Keep going. You're doing great." Ella cried when she saw it. Not because of the things, though she needed them badly, but because someone believed in her without even knowing her. For the first time in months, she cooked a proper meal, hummed a song while feeding Liam, and smiled when he giggled with food on his face. But reality didn't stop testing her. Her landlord served an eviction notice, she was 2 months behind. She packed what little she owned, trying not to fall apart. That night, under the dim hallway light, her phone buzzed again. "How are things?" It was Alexander. For a long time, she didn't answer. Then she typed, "I'm losing the flat. But it's okay. I've been through worse." He didn't reply for hours. Then, a message, "Can you come to 19, Kingsway Road tomorrow at 10 a.m.? It's safe. Just trust me." Ella hesitated all night. Her heart said no, but desperation whispered yes. The next morning, clutching Liam's tiny hand, she went. It turned out to be a community cafe owned by one of Alexander's foundations. He wasn't there, just a kind woman who handed her an envelope. Inside was a job offer. Kitchen assistant. Free childcare included. Tears blurred her sight. She accepted. Days turned into weeks. Ella worked hard, her confidence blooming again. Every evening, she'd text a short update, "We're doing okay," or "Liam learned a new word today." Alexander read every one of them in silence, smiling faintly, feeling something in him thaw after years of cold solitude. Then came Christmas Eve. The cafe staff were invited to a charity dinner hosted by the foundation. Ella almost didn't go, she had no dress, no shoes fit for a gala. But the cafe manager insisted and handed her a simple navy gown from a donation box. When she stepped into the ballroom, lights glimmering, violins playing softly, she froze. Alexander Pierce was at the front, addressing the crowd. "This year," he said, "I learned something I'd forgotten long ago. Kindness doesn't always come from grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with a message from a stranger at 2 a.m. His gaze swept the room, then stopped when he saw her. Ella's breath caught. For a moment, neither moved. Then, after the applause, he walked toward her. "So," he said quietly, his voice softer than she expected, "you're Ella. And you're the man who sent too much money for baby formula." She smiled through tears. They laughed, a little awkwardly, but warmly, like two people who'd somehow already known each other before they met. Alexander bent down to greet Liam, who clung shyly to Ella's leg. "Hi, buddy," he said, offering his hand. Liam giggled, and in that sound, something healed inside both adults. Over the next months, Alexander found himself visiting the cafe often. Not as a billionaire, but as a man rediscovering what mattered. He learned to make coffee badly. Ella teased him. They talked, laughed, shared little moments that stitched their worlds together quietly. She never asked for anything, he never offered more than she needed. Yet every day, they both knew, something was growing between them. One evening, after closing the cafe, Ella turned to him and said, "You know, I used to think people like you only lived in another universe." He smiled. "And I used to think people like you were the reason mine felt empty." Months later, when the foundation opened a new shelter for struggling parents, Alexander stood beside Ella, now the program manager, as she gave her speech. "Sometimes," she said, voice trembling, "one wrong number can lead you to the right person." The audience applauded, but Alexander didn't hear them. He only saw the woman who had texted him by mistake and ended up teaching him the one thing he had forgotten, the worth of a simple, human heart. That night, as they stood under the city lights with Liam sleeping on her shoulder, he whispered, "You once asked for baby formula money. You gave me something far rarer." "What's that?" she asked softly. "A reason to believe again." And for the first time in years, he smiled like a man finally home.